right, thank you everybody for joining us today on Go Ed Tech Go. Today we have a very special guest, alumni Dymond Guilford. As you saw in the intro, Dymond has lots of accolades. She is currently on the U.S. Olympic wrestling team, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to trade a champion for our HBS class, talk about her journey and some of the things that she's doing now. So thanks for joining us today, Dymond, for this special interview.
Hi guys. Thank you for having me here. And just a slight correction, I'm not on the Olympic team yet. I am going to go and try to qualify for it and get on it this April.
Well, I'm telling you that I am clairvoyant and I just saw the future. That's
we're
why
putting it out there
into the universe to make it happen. That's what we're doing. So
thanks for all the things. Yes.
When it happens, Dymond, you heard it here first.
That's right.
I think that's
exclusive.
That's exclusive. That's the exclusive part of this. So.
Okay.
I love it. Let's get right into it, right? So part of being an Olympic athlete, there's a lot of training that goes into it, right? And one of the big things that our students are going to have to investigate and look for when training their champion is in the realm of diet. And so the question I have for you in terms of diet is that during the regular season, one, is there a prescribed diet for you while you're in training, right? Is there a prescribed diet for you? If so, what are the key points of it? And what certain things are you kind of told or geared to stay away from? And what certain things are you trying to make sure you get a bunch of?
It's pretty interesting going on this Olympic path. I'm an Olympic hopeful, and right now they're really just teaching us to eat to fuel our body. And I am actually on a meal plan, and my meal plan changes and grows with every time I change how I want to approach my weight class. So just last year I was trying to get down in weight. So my meal plan was lighter, but it really stressed me eating a lot of protein, cutting down some of the carbohydrates, making sure I was still getting in my healthy fats, and also eating a regular portion of fruits and vegetables every meal, and getting in the snacks in between to keep the processes going. And now that I'm going up a weight class, now I'm going to 76, my meal plan has increased to where I'm eating much more carbohydrates, a little bit more protein. I'm having an extra snack a day, so I'm up to 2 snacks a day, and really even a little bit more fruits and vegetables, and really just anything to fuel my body and keep the machine going and basically keep me healthy.
Nice. One other kind of follow-up with that then is, what is the diet like? What's a typical meal like for you? Maybe a typical meal plan the day before you have a big match.
I try my best to stay on the same meal plan that I've had. Like if I'm eating something, we start preparing for our matches and tournaments 8 weeks before our tournament. So we adjust our meal plans to make us match weight. It's like 2 months before. So when Olympic trials comes up in April, I'll start adjusting my meal plan by the beginning of February. That's when we start locking stuff down. And a typical meal for me looks like 8 ounces of protein, half a cup of carbohydrates, whether that be rice, potatoes, spaghetti. And then I get 2 cups of roasted vegetables, and that's every meal. And then we get to mix and match it up. Sometimes I get shrimp tacos. Sometimes I'm eating just flank steak, and it's made me a really good cook because they get so creative with how to keep me like eating healthy and entertained while I'm eating.
Great. So here's the one thing I think everybody's going to ask. So you have to stay away from certain things, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So what is the one thing that you're like, man, I really, really, really want to eat that, but I can't? What is the one thing?
Pizza. I can't just have one slice. I will eat about half a box to a good 2/3 of the box. So that's why in moderation, I can eat it. It would be good for me, but I just don't like moderation of pizza. I like the whole thing. So I got to stay away from it.
That was not the answer I thought I was going to give. I thought it was Cheetos or like, that's what I thought. And I was like, pizza? Wow, I was like, oh, pizza seems like it would be something good, but apparently it's not. So hopefully once you make that Olympic team, you're going to celebrate with more than one pizza. Oh, yeah. So here's a question we have for you on exercise. So one of the things we're going to focus on is creating exercise programs for a champion. And so we know, or I know, that you're really focused on strength, right? But what are some other things that your trainers really focus on to help you to compete at the level that you're at?
I think a really important thing that we stress, especially in the program that I'm in right now at the Olympic Training Center, is that they look at my training schedule, just how much time I'm on the mat and what I'm trying and how much energy I'm putting out on the mat. And then they adjust my actual lifting schedule to that. So if I'm out here wrestling live, like doing combat for like a week straight, and we're on a hard periodization week, then they're going to make our lifts a little bit lighter to compensate for how much our body's already putting out. So then it can reduce the chances of injury from overuse, right? And then on the lighter weeks, that's when they're like, okay, we got to get those numbers up. We got to start pushing. Let's get heavier loads on. And they like keep that balance. So then we can still help our bodies and also continue to grow like our muscles. Because a really big thing in our training program is we use our strength and conditioning sessions to balance out our body. And then for like cardio and stuff like that, we mainly get that from wrestling.
Great. Just kind of a follow-up to that. You talked a little bit about Olympic Training Center that you're at, right, in Colorado?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So can you take me through like a typical day, or of what training looks like? I wake up, I do this, I do that. This is the type of training we do. I know that not every day is exactly the same, but kind of a typical day of what that training would look like.
Oh, yeah. So I wake up around 7:20. We have practice at 9 o'clock. And I try to get in some food in me by about 8:10 so it can process before practice. And that looks like about half of my breakfast. I eat half of my breakfast before practice. And then after practice at 11, I'll eat the other half. And during the regular practice in the mornings, we'll have combat for most of our morning sessions. And then later in the afternoon, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we'll have our strength and conditioning sessions. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, we'll have our, our individual sessions where we like adapt and grow our minds in wrestling. And then for lunch, we go, me and my roommate, who's somewhere in the background here, we go out and get our food. We get in all of our meals, and she's on her own meal plan as well. And then we go in for our second session, which is either that lift session or that individual session. And then we go and eat dinner, but I have to get in dinner before 6 o'clock. So then everything like processes and I don't feel overly full when I go to bed. And then we have to get to bed like on time so we can restart the whole process for the next day. And it's what's the right word for it? You have to be very timely about these things, especially about getting the food in you at the right times, because we don't want anything to like stop our process in the day of us growing.
Great. Yeah, it sounds very regimented. I know that people see these professional athletes and they're like, oh, that's a glorious life. And you're like, yeah, if you can stick to the routine and do exactly what you're told at exactly the right time. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So the next question with this is, we talk about training and plans and everything else. I think the meal plan is kind of like the easiest one to talk about, but I want to know what the plan is for you or has been for you in terms of proper hydration throughout the day. If there's a plan you're on for hydrating a certain amount of ounces of liquid you have to have per day, or how that works for you.
Well, hydration, we really stress that in our program, because they found that if you go down in 2% hydration, your performance goes down 7%, which is horrible. We want, especially when we're trying to make these Olympic teams, these world teams, and trying to wrestle on these levels, we need to have every ounce of ourselves on that mat. So my hydration ebbs and flows for when I'm here versus when I'm at competition. My competitions are usually at sea level, which means I retain more water while I'm at sea level. So I don't have to drink. I drink like a third less when I'm actually at competitions, just because I'm able to retain all the water. But right now I'm in Colorado Springs. I'm at altitude. So I'm drinking maybe, I have a bottle for every meal, so that's 3 bottles. And then I have 2 bottles for every practice. So I'm drinking 7 bottles of water at least a day. If I get parched, then I'm going to drink another bottle of water. So 7 to 9 is just this amount for one day. And it repeats every day because we're trying to stay hydrated. It's trying to keep our body moving and such. And you lose so much water during practice. It's ridiculous because if any wrestlers see this, y'all know those rooms be hot. So
yeah. So you talked about water. Is there any electrolyte type of supplements that go into that?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So this one's more of a feeling thing for me. If we're going through a very hard periodization week, I tend to notice that around lunchtime, I feel just kind of like drained. And that's because of the lack of electrolytes. So I'll go and get myself, in combination with the water I drink with my lunch, I'll go and drink like a Gatorade. Well, mostly Powerades, but I'll go and get that one, and then I'll drink half of it, see how I feel, and then I'll drink the other half of it at the end of lunch just to make sure. And that's all the electrolytes extra that I need.
Yeah, that's good to know, because the next question that goes into this is that have you ever, in your time of training or even in competitions, ever experienced like firsthand kind of a dip in performance based on inadequate hydration?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially in my college time, before I really got into like the nutrition and just the things that your body needs to help the process go. There are a lot of times where I did walk into dual matches and tournaments, and I wasn't properly hydrated. So by the time I got to my second match, my body just felt like it was squeezed up on itself. You're cramping when you're doing a sprawl. You're breathing heavy, your mouth is dry, and it's just not a very good feeling. You should be focused, zeroed in on your match and you winning. And right now, your body's freaking out on you because you're not feeding it what it needs. So that's something that's really important, and that's why we try to like keep our mind on it.
One of the things that we're going to focus on for our class project is testing, baseline testing. We're trying to get people to understand that you have to have a baseline test so you can see kind of where you started and where you're going, right? So are there any baseline tests that you did maybe when you came into Colorado Springs or maybe into a college season, some baseline tested, maybe body fat, maybe, do they test your hydration levels? Those type of things. What type of testing do they do on somebody like you at that level to make sure that you are progressing in the way that you should be progressing?
I know that we have baseline testing, and the minute you said that, it flashed me back to when I first got here, but I cannot remember the names of these baseline tests. They might have done body fat. Yeah, but I know definitely they do stuff for like cognitive function, because wrestling is a combat sport, and we want to make sure that our athletes are safe and like keep all the cognitive functions that we can. So like they do baseline testing for like just our medical history and also our injury history, and as well as concussion baseline testing.
Oh, great. Yeah, because we talked about concussion. Now, I know that with high school wrestling, they do hydration testing prior to the season. Is that something that they do with you guys? Do they do a lot of hydration testing for you during that training period?
Amy, do they do hydration testing? No. No, we do not do hydration testing.
The fact that you had to ask, I was like, I hope they don't. And they're telling you everything that they're doing.
But yeah, I think that's only regulated at the college level at this point. When you get more into the senior level, where I'm at right now, we don't do hydration testing. It's more very individualized on the athlete to make sure that they're getting all the proper things that they need.
Awesome. So with that, I'm glad you talked about even the concussion side of it as well in terms of testing. Another big section of this assignment that our students do is on injury prevention and on medical professionals who help with that. So it's kind of a two-part question. The first part is, one, what medical and athletic professionals do you work with on a given basis, and just to kind of keep you up, your strength levels, prevent injuries, for one. And then two, have you ever been in had an injury where you had to rehab it to get back to your level?
Oh yeah, definitely. Right now I have an athletic trainer. His name is Corey James, and he's amazing. I ask him the most random questions about anything that like is just bothering me on my body, and he'll have like 2 paragraphs worth of answers for me, and he'll tell me just how it functions, this, that, and the other, and I'm just like, oh wow. So now I know all these things about like bursas and stuff, and it's crazy. But that's my main point of contact when it comes to injuries is my athletic trainer. He's very well versed in that type of stuff. And then the Olympic Training Center has a lot of stuff like PTs and doctors and people who like regularly rotate through. Like, so if I was having like a shoulder problem, then I'd be able to come in and like do my shoulder rehab inside of their rehab center, and then also be able to talk to a doctor about it, and they'd be able to refer me, all this really cool stuff. And an injury that I've like had to get through in the past is a couple of years ago in 2019, I went to Sweden, and I had, during the match, I got a slight tear on my LCL, right? And it was just for me improperly defending a leg lace. And I just did not know what was going on with my leg. And I automatically talked to the athletic trainer on the trip. And she was like, oh, this is what's happening. Just do these leg exercises and it should heal up in like this amount of time. And being able to do those exercises, I had another competition coming up in 2 weeks since that. And that gave me at least enough strength to figure out how to wrestle on it. And then I went to the next competition, was able to take gold, which is really cool. And yeah, she was there to wrap up my leg whenever I was going onto the mat, this and the other. And it's a very healthy environment to continue to compete if you want to. So yeah.
So you talked a little bit about that getting back to playing.
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like, the tracking that they do at that level to make sure that you are healthy enough to go out there? Like if you had an injury where it kept you off the mat for a while, what type of tracking are they doing? What are they looking for? Because I can imagine that you're working towards this goal to get back on the mat.
Yes.
And then when they say it, you're like, yes, I'm back, right? So what does that tracking look like? What are they doing for you at that level to make sure that you are back on the mat as soon as you can get there?
Well, one thing that they do is that every year they have us fill out our injury history, right? And then they'll show you a graph of how often you're getting injured, and they'll show you a graph of your body and where you're getting injured the most, right? And it's very interesting. I don't want to talk about my injury history, but it's very interesting to look at. And I remember one time a couple of years ago, again, I had a concussion that I was coming back from, right? And this is the first year that I'm here at the Olympic Training Center. And I'm used to like sitting down when you have concussion, but as they were bringing me back onto the mat, they were testing how far I could go. And they would have me on the treadmill, they have me walking. And then once I get a headache, they'd be like, okay, we're done for the day. And then the next day they have me do the same thing. And then every day would get better and better and better. And then finally, when I was able to get back on the mat, and when I tell you that getting back on the mat is much harder than being on the mat, like they're intentionally stressing you out to your peak. So then they're sure that when you're back on the mat, you're like as strong as you were before. So by the time I got back on the mat, I felt so conditioned. I felt like I hadn't missed a beat by the time I got back. It was really cool. So just like they have protocols and practices for getting people returned to the mat. And it's usually like those stress tests, like, oh, how much stress can she take? And yeah.
So one of the aspects, I know that Mr. Gonzalez talked about medical professionals, but one of the things for a professional athlete is coming back mentally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you worked with a sports psychologist in those times to bring you back to kind of get your mind right? Because I think a lot of times for professional athletes, it's easy to get back physically, but to get back mentally, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult because we are so used to being good physically that we don't really think about the mental side. Have you worked with a sports psychologist to bring you back and get you to the point where you are able to play again?
Not yet. I have not had an injury that's really taken me out of the game yet. And I'm so thankful for that. But I do know athletes who have had to talk to a sports psychologist. And there are other things that I've been able to talk to my sports psychologist about here. And just about like the way I approach practices, the way that I approach just like changing the relationships between my just in regular life and everything, because those things do affect your performance out on the field and in wherever you're trying to achieve. So it's really interesting being able to have somebody who understands the mind, especially in the sports context, to actually help you develop in that way.
That's awesome. I think one thing that I've taken away from this, and it's true, I feel like with the other athletes that we've talked to, is that it's all about having a plan. Having a plan for training, for rehabbing, for conditioning, for diet, for hydration. And so just kind of tying into that plan, it could be for you specifically, or even wrestling in general, from your experience, is in terms of like supplements, vitamins, medications, certain things that are necessary for kind of the preseason, like training for a match, kind of during that competition season, and then when you're coming out of it, is what, if any, sort of like medications, vitamins, supplements, do wrestlers typically take during their training program?
A very interesting thing about the Olympic program is that there is no off season. We are training and competing all the time. And just because this is like our life now. So if anything, maybe an off season would be Christmas time. We get 2 weeks off after Christmas, and then we're back on the mat doing our stuff, right? And a really big thing that I stress personally when it comes to like supplementing myself is getting the antioxidants that I need, so then I get substantial blood flow and stuff. So, and we really stress in the community to not really take supplements because of, you saw the regulations, and you never know what's in the supplements and stuff like that. We don't want to get flagged. So they always teach us like the fruits and vegetables that we do need to like, that will increase our antioxidant power, our healing power, this, that, and the other. And it's crazy. Beets might be a little bit disgusting, but they are crazy with antioxidant power. So like, I kind of have to get over how disgusting they are to me, because they help me so much on the mat. They help me feel like I'm floating, even though I weigh even though I'm in the heaviest weight class, they make me feel like I'm light because of the fact that I don't feel all of the lactic acid buildup. I don't feel like I'm being weighed down by soreness. I'm able to push my body because I'm feeding it this fuel. So that's one thing that they really do stress, especially when you get to like just the Olympic level and everything, is that they really want us to eat naturally. So if I want to not be as sore after a tournament, because after a tournament it feels like you get hit by a truck. They'll have you eat one banana in between every match, a banana and some water in between every match. So you get that potassium hit and you get that hydration. So by the time Sunday hits, when the tournament's usually over, you're able to go home and like enjoy your day and enjoy life while you're getting back into training, because nothing's stopping you. You've fed your body during the tournament. It's great. It's this whole thing.
It's funny that you talk about beets, because I'm friends with, Josh Kelly. Josh Kelly here too. You guys, your dad knows him. And the other day he posted him drinking a can with beet juice on it and talking about how good it was. And he took the drink, and then you could see it in his face that it might have been good for him, but it did not taste good for him.
That's exactly how it is. But pro tip, if you put beets in a smoothie, like just blend it up, there's some type of sweetness that comes out of it, and that tastes good. But like roasted beets, baked beets and stuff like that, disgusting. So yeah.
That is well noted. I'll tell you that. So let's get into a little bit, we're almost done here, but I want to talk a little bit about your time here, right? Because Dymond, were you here when Dymond was here?
What year did you graduate, Dymond?
2017.
Okay, that was my first year, 2016, 2017 here at Eastside.
I feel like I've seen you before. It's just that I'm not cemented as much as Mr. Gomez is. So yeah.
He's a little tiny bit younger than I am, so we'll give him that.
A decade or so, a little bit.
It depends on what you are. So with that said, the thing that I remember about Dymond Guilford is Dymond Guilford was a cheerleader, which you see this girl who's like this wrestler who could take you down like in the hallway. She was a cheerleader. She did everything, right? She tried everything. Track, right? I remember all of those things that you did. And then you kind of fell onto wrestling. I don't know if you fell onto it or you're recruited or you found wrestling or it found you. Let's just say that the stars aligned and it found you for the right thing. There are students on this campus who want to be professional athletes or work with professional athletes. What advice would you give those kids who walk the same hall, been in the same cafeteria, same classroom? What would you give those kids from this neighborhood that we live in to what it takes to become a professional athlete or what it takes to work with a professional athlete?
It's definitely more so just about putting yourself out there. I remember I joined wrestling my junior year of high school, and it was just a hobby. I was like, let me just try this out. And I remember when I took 8th at state that year, and I decided, hey, I want to be good at this. I want to do something with this, right? At least get into college with it. I decided to start asking for help and putting myself out there. So I started going to the other local schools and like AV, Lancaster and everything, and tried to build those connections and ask around like, hey, what's at this next level? Where do I go? Who do I need to talk to? And luckily, the Lancaster coach, Johnny Ruggiano, was he had a high up position in Titan Mercury, a whole wrestling club that's nationwide. And he let me dip my toe firsthand into that. And then also I started traveling up and down California, getting into more wrestling rooms. And it sounds complicated, but it's actually very easy because people tend to love their sports and want to grow it. And that's why I found across all sports. So if you want to be a great track star, start talking to the track coaches from anybody who will listen. And then they'll start giving you places to go, places to position yourself. And then by the time you're out of school, college coaches have seen you. They want you at their program. They see your heart and your dedication. And that's all they want. They don't care if you're good or not. I wasn't good at wrestling by the time I got out of high school, but the coaches saw my heart and my determination, and that's what they want. That's what they want at college. That's what they want at these programs. So yeah, so just putting yourself out there, talking, and just allowing yourself to do all this. So yeah.
I love how she says that I wasn't very good when I left high school, but I remember watching a stream of Dymond winning the state championship.
So not that good, but I beat everybody in California.
If you were not good, I'm sure that everybody wants to not be good. That's one of the things that I think that I'd like to reiterate with you and Josh Kelly is that you guys were not just focused on one thing. I think if the Dymond Guilford that we see here today decided, like some of these students do, I want to be a basketball player and just focused on basketball and didn't go do something else, you bounced around. And you were in a family, though. Your brother played football. You're in an athletic family, and your dad is part of that athletic family too. He's very knowledgeable about these things. But what advice would you give to somebody who thinks, hey, I'm going to focus on basketball? Maybe that's not their best thing. Maybe there's something out there that they just stumble upon and, whoa, hey, I can hit a golf ball a long way. I can dunk a basketball. But I really, you know what I mean? What advice would you give to somebody who goes through a high school program who thinks that they just want to focus on one thing?
You got to just keep bouncing around until you find something that fits you. I remember the first sport that I joined was cross country in middle school. And I died there. And then I was like, let me try something else. I went on to soccer. And I did really cool things in soccer. I did the thing where the ball hits your head and then it bounces off and it's super cool. Everybody's like, wow. Soccer wasn't working out for me either. That's a lot of running. And then we went on to track and field. I did shot put. And that was cool. I liked the people there, but it just wasn't fitting me. I just didn't really get the whole community aspect of it. And then we just kept going from sport to sport to sport until we found something that we can really just go with. And that was wrestling. And wrestling lit a fire under me that I was like, okay, I really would like to dedicate myself to this. And even if you are to stay with one sport because you just really love it, you love the community of it, you love the people, then really what you need to do is that you need to take some time and study your sport. Take that time to talk to people. Take that time to actually and take the time to do your homework. Like, take the time to go and keep your grades up so you can stay in that sport, because I might have still been in shot put if I didn't fail some classes back in high school. So that's one thing.
Well, I know that track coach that you're talking about very well. It might be me, but I remember, I do remember you having some issues with your academics a little bit, because you know, what students think is like, hey, I'm great, I'm gonna just they're gonna take me no matter what, and that's not how it works. And you got your stuff together, which I think is great. I also, you know, I know the Guilford family, and I know that you guys have a big name in this community, from your dad to your brother to you. So we're very happy that, you know, your family is a big part of this community and the sports community. And I just think it's awesome what you're doing.
Thanks. It's really, I'm so happy right now. Like, one thing that runs through my mind at least like once a week is just how I get to represent not only myself and not only like women's wrestling, where I go out to go and wrestle, but I also get to represent my community. Like, not a lot of people know about the Antelope Valley, but we have so many gems coming out of there. We got JK, we got me, Precious Bell, who's also doing really great. We got people coming from other schools like Nahyla McGee. She's from Lancaster. She's on the senior national team. She's doing amazing. We have so many gems coming out of the Antelope Valley, and it's really worthwhile to invest in yourself out there, and people, and for the community to invest in the kids, and it's super nice.
And you're doing some of that investing now. You have a women's line. Well, you told us it's a women's line, so people can buy these things so that we can keep kind of doing these things for women's athletics and wrestling. So you are out there doing what you're saying. You're not sitting behind a, you know, on the mat or behind a desk just saying these things. You're out there helping women's wrestling, and those are things that I think are important for people to see.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then and you guys heard it first, when I am done with my wrestling career, which should be in like 10 years, I'm really planning on starting programs back in the Antelope Valley to help kids get to college, and continuing what my dad was doing while I was in high school, which was getting these high schoolers to the elite level that they need to be at, so then they can go to college. So I'm planning on doing that after all this.
Dymond, that's awesome. It's nice to see you. We really appreciate your time and kind of hear your story. It's very inspirational, I think, to the thousands of kids who are in the Antelope Valley and across the country who can hear this. And so again, just thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. And we just wish you the best of luck in everything you do.
Thank you. You guys look out for Dymond, 76 kg, 2021 Olympics. Look out for me.
We definitely will. Thanks, Dymond.
Okay.
See ya.